It is in the trunk. You brought it. Oh, sorry.
Well, I think we're here live again. Would somebody check our feed on their cell phone and see what they have?
Let's see here.
There we go.
That's your mother's chair.
Oh wait, I don't do Facebook.
Yep, we're good.
We're here in Ferndale, Washington, after a whirlwind trip to Phoenix for me for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It was good to be home.
You're the adventurer.
Yeah, that was an adventure. It was quite the trip. A lot of teaching, a little radio, bird the baby, had all kinds of fun. So we're session 7 tonight. And this is about establishing a teaching environment. So what do you think of that?
I think that sounds important. I think with all the things we've been learning and going over, one of the important things is figuring out how to set up the opportunity to apply those things.
Right. And you're a homeschooler.
Yeah.
So it's really good thing for a homeschool parent to know some of this stuff. One of the challenges with school, the public schools, is that it's a cookie cutter system. So, by the way, all you watching, we have a crowd gathered around here, and they're watching live, and you're watching live, but they're right here with us.
But we're more live than you are.
That's it. Okay, so when you've got your public schools cookie cutter system, every child doesn't fit that mold. And then when you've got a homeschool, and when you're homeschooling children with developmental challenges, like some of the challenges we've been talking about, it gets challenging for the parent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're going to talk about how to establish a learning environment for the child. Wow, how many students do they stack in a public school classroom? 30, 32, 28?
32, 33.
Wow. And these kids, a lot of them need individualized attention. Now, there are children that thrive in that system. There are children that learn, because there's a lot of learning styles, which are going to cover some of the learning styles too this evening. But to learn, we need clean input, precise input. We need input that comes into the brain, that the brain can actually get a handle on and put it where it belongs in the brain. And then you need to be able to retrieve it when you need it. Because sometimes we teach our kids these things, and then we try to test them. And we say, okay, what's 7 times 7? Oh. And then, she knows. Yeah, we got a 12, you're 12 years old?
Yeah.
Wow. She knows it, 7 times 7. But sometimes the kid, if it's stored in the wrong place, they don't have it when they need it. When you ask for it, when the test comes, they go, and then they'll be playing with their dollies or writing their push card or whatever, and they come up with 7 times 7 is 49. So we want to establish an environment where that information goes in the correct place. So it has to come through clean. It has to stick in the brain and come back out clean. If it gets mixed up, if it gets disorganized, there's a problem. So if we organize the classroom, we've got a better chance of organizing the child's brain, of getting the information in. And if the teaching environment is a negative environment, who's had that here? And I know a couple people that have had that or have that going on even now. Mm-hmm. When it's a negative environment, everything it's a downhill slide. And if you do get something taught, the main thing they learn is, I don't like to do this. And you're nasty to me. You're being mean to me. I don't like school. It actually develops a neurochemical pathway in the brain that says, I hate reading. I don't have success reading. So they don't like it. Where if they have success, and in fact, that's part of nurturing them in an environment where they do have success, then those neurochemicals say, whoa, you can do this. Wow, Johnny Jump Up, you did good. You can read this. You did do this. You did know your math tables. And that's what we want to get to. So I'm going to follow some notes to keep from getting too far off track. So we want to make sure the receptive functions are good. We want to make sure we talked, I think, session 1 about the different hemispheres of the brain. And if you've got a right-handed child, they should be right eye, right ear, right-footed. So we need to make sure that information is going into their right eye. Now we have a young man here who's left-handed, so he should be left eye, left ear, left foot. And there's another lefty. Yes, we got a couple lefties. So I think it's about 15% of the population is left-handed. That'll be important in a few minutes. And here we got about 15% of you are left-handed. So in that case, you need to make sure the information is coming through the left eye, through the left ear, to get lodged in the logical hemisphere of the brain, where mathematics are, where language skills should thrive, where the ABCs should live. Right? We talked about this, I think, in session 1 about if you teach the ABCs to music, and then I tell you what comes before the letter L, and you have to sing it, it's not a very effective way to come up with the letter K, which comes before L, right? Am I right?
You are right.
I'm right. Okay. Who had to sing it to get there, though? Right.
Although the interesting thing with that, I just was throwing a little rabbit trail in there, is that it's not as easy to access the information, but I can still remember little ditty songs I learned 40 years ago that it's a super strong memory.
Oh, yes, that's a strong place to put it. Photographic memory is actually a subdominant function. So that's how I got through college. College courses, I would literally look at a book, I would just whiz over the pages and bam, it'd be in there, photographic. But when it came to the test, I have to go, okay, that was chapter 7. Oh, that was page 249. And that was right before this. And so you see where the problem is, that I had to flip through the book in my mind to get to that place. It was inefficient. Effective? Yes. Inefficient? Yes. So you want that information to be in the logical hemisphere. So you want to make sure it goes through, if they're right-handed, it's got to be clean input through the right eye. If there's developmental issues with the eye, we need to figure that out. Fix the eye. This series is called Fixing the Brain. It's not about identifying problems in the brain, but not fixing them. This is about fixing the brain and finding these problems. If the ear has a problem and teaching is not getting through clean through the ear, maybe they've had a lot of ear infections, otitis media. Maybe they've had a lot of antibiotics because they have these recurring ear infections. And I want to tell you, if you're taking a lot of antibiotics and you're still having ear infections, we haven't got to the root of the problem. And quite often it's something like milk allergies. And it might even be the type of milk, which I think Nurse Nikki and I, a week or two ago, we discussed the types of milk. And one of them has caseomorphine, the black and white cows, the type 1A cows. And where the brown, the Jerseys, the Guernseys, the brown Swiss, they're type 2A. So
But
they don't
where do
have
you
this
get 'em?
morphine. What's that?
Where do you get?
Well, you have to
Brown
get to
Swiss
know
or
your
Guernsey?
farmer. That's the only option. Or drink goat's milk. Or find the alternative. You know, a few bloods out there. If your goat milk tastes nasty, what are they feeding the goats? Think about that.
Yeah, our milk tastes like whatever the animal.
Yes. So if they've got recurring ear infections and they can't hear correctly, and you're trying to give them all this input, the learning environment's not very safe for them. It's not very good for them. It's coming in garbled. Maybe they have hypersensitivities to hearing. They hear a fan running in the next room. And this is a classroom with 28 kids in it. And they're hearing this fan clicking somewhere else. Nobody else can hear it. So they get distracted, and their learning environment hits the tank. And we need to make sure they're getting good, clean input. It's hard to do when there's 28 students. But a lot of you out there are homeschoolers here. There's a few teachers out here listening too. And I've taught some of this to teachers, how to get this structured environment. Bible teachers, this is Pastor Jeff. He should know this stuff when he's teaching the Bible. We want to make sure we get the lesson in clean. So make sure it's coming in the correct avenue, getting organized so that they can bring it back out. And the receptive functions that go into the brain are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. There's five senses, and they all provide input. And the environment plays a big role in that, especially if the child is too hot, too cold, too noisy, not quiet enough, or too quiet. Because we also have learning styles. Mm-hmm. And some kids thrive in noisy. When I'm doing my studies, I put on my headphones and I put on Led Zeppelin and all these, Nelly. I like to put Nelly on too. Because I tune it out. I turn it down. I get in the zone. That's my style. And some people here, I know a couple people in here in particular who, it's got to be quiet. It's got to be just so. And you got to be warm enough. You got to be safe enough. You've got to be. So you've got to know what your child's learning style is too. And there's 3 kinds of learning styles I want to cover. There's visual learners. Anybody know how a visual learner learns?
By seeing.
By reading. They see the picture of what they're supposed to be constructing, and bam, now they're going to do it. Auditory learner, they hear things. And if you read to them, they learn easier, they learn better. But make sure, if they're the right-handed child, that you get to where you're speaking to their right ear, which means that you've got to be on their right side. If they're a left-handed child, you should be on the left side so they get that information, prefer it, and get it on the left side. So that's there's one more style of learning, and this is probably the biggest challenge, especially in the classroom. That's the kinesthetic learner. Wow. That's the learning in motion. This kid, if you're building the alphabet out of Play-Doh and he's tactily involved, he will learn those ABCs. He can make those letters out of clay. He can feel it, taste it, touch it, smell it. He's totally engaged. And that's the biggest challenge to teach when you have 28 kids. Mm-hmm. Right? If you've got 3 kids at home,
it's still a challenge.
It's still a challenge, right? Because I guarantee you've got at least 2.5 different learning styles here. Mm-hmm. Maybe 3. So you've got to learn your student if you're going to make the right environment for them. So you've got some homework to do as a teacher, homeschool teacher, as a Bible teacher. Well, homeschool and Bible teacher. This is on you. If you're a school teacher, you've got 28 kids in your class, this is on you. And unfortunately, the school teacher with 28 kids, they've got their 12, 13, 14 success kids, and then they've got their 12 that are struggling a little, might make it, but there's those 4 that just don't fit the mold, that are always struggling, they're in trouble, and it's a negative learning environment, so they're not happy. The best place to learn is in a happy place. Mm-hmm. If you want to learn, go to a happy place, somewhere where you enjoy learning. For the kinesthetic kid, probably sitting on top of a wall, a 4-foot brick wall or something. So he's got his balance and he's got everything going on. So you got to figure this out. It's up to you. I can't figure it out for you. Okay, so
what would you say is the balance between? What would you say is the balance between, in a way, you're saying, figure out whatever your kid wants, learns best, and try and communicate that way to them, which I understand. But is there a balance in that of actually helping your child become disciplined? That I have one of my children, won't use any names, but he's one of my older children now in college. But growing up, he could not hold still. He was a kinesthetic learner, constantly moving. We finally tried. We got one of those big blue balls,
yes,
and he would sit on that while he was doing school, so he could kind of wiggle and move. But then he decided it was fun to kick it around the room, and then the ball went away. And I'm just kind of thinking through the reality, whether you're in a classroom, a homeschool, in a church, in a business, wherever you are, where you're trying to communicate persuasively and effectively. How do you balance that, creating that opportune environment, but at the same time, where we're all different, there's always a give and take to that. And so, like, thinking about 5 kids that learn 5 different ways, even in our family, how do you say, okay, we want to create a good environment, but we also, I think that for me, I'm kind of asking the question, but it feels like there's also a place where part of our job is to try and help them grow in other ways of learning too.
Right. Well, let's back it up one step.
Yeah. Sorry I'm not trying to mess
all
your
right.
notes.
Well, that's a very thorough question.
Figure if I'm going to sit here, I might as well put you to work.
All right. So if your child can't sit still, if they're constantly in motion, if they're tapping, if they're drumming, if their foot's going constantly, why? Why is that? So if you stop and ask why, then look for the answer, you're going to find out, and I'm going to give you the secret here. It's cortical spillage. Quite often, cortical spillage. So the cortices of the brain, they myelinate, fatty layer of myelin, and this keeps the neural pathways running clean. It keeps the synapses running down the raceway. If you have cortical spillage, the pathways may not be myelinated really well. So it leaks. It leaks out. So you got all this feedback going all over the brain. And the brain's going, what do I do with all this? And the brain is just busy trying to put this extra feedback somewhere. And generally it tries to put it into emotion, like drumming or a tapping. The extreme of this is called Tourette's, where you have a demyelination in the brain or a place that has not insulated thoroughly. So if your child is always in motion and drumming the drum beat and tapping their foot and they can't sit still and they got to be on a ball, it's possible that it's cortical spillage. Now, what does that look like? That's the child who has the pen and pencil or pen or pencil and the paper, and they're trying to write and their tongue's out. They're chewing their tongue, and this hand is kind of moving with it, and their toes are curled, and their whole body's engaged, where they should be able to just write, and the body's not engaged. But if they cannot do a simple manual function without the whole body being engaged, there's cortical spillage. So the brain's trying to send the signals down to make the hand move, and the feet and the legs and everything else are getting involved. They're getting the bleed over. So it's cortical spillage. The kid can't sit still because the signals are going everywhere. This is a high energy kid. And there's a simple solution. Generally, very simple solution. It's called fish oil. Fish oil. I've had some extreme Tourette's cases where it'd be 2 or 3 weeks before they can get to the clinic. So I'll say, okay, well, it's Tourette's. Let's start with 3 tablespoons of fish oil a day before you get here. And by the time they get to the clinic, the Tourette's is gone. It's absolutely gone, or it's mostly gone. So if the brain is leaking signals, then you have to stop and see if that's the problem. So look and see if the whole body's engaged. The neurological test is you put their hands flat on a table, you get them relaxed, you have their toes uncovered so you can see their feet, there's no shoes and socks, and they're relaxed, and then you take this hand and make a fist. And you put your hand over this hand, let them lay, this hand's got to stay still. So you do it to me, okay? So you cover my hand. Now open your hand, you're holding it.
Oh.
Keep me from opening. You say open your hand.
Okay, open
I'm
your
opening it. And if this hand's going up, and the grimace and the toes are curling, and that's cortical spillage. That's okay for a 2-month-old, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, but by the time they get 6, 7, 8, and the brain is supposed to be myelinating through the upper cortices, that's going to be a difficult learning environment. And it's a really simple solution. They need fats for their brains. They need fats. Fats don't make you fats. We've discovered this with Nurse Nikki a few weeks ago when we were talking about the ketogenic diet. Fats don't make you fat. Good fats are good fats. They're great for you. Your brain is over 60% fat. It needs fat. If you are short on fat, your signals are going to be leaking. And yes, you're going to have trouble focusing. And yes, when you're trying to do something, the body's going to be involved and engaged. So your kinesthetic learner could actually need a good dose of fish oil. A true kinesthetic learner needs to get the Play-Doh out and make the letters, the ABC letters. They need to put the gluten-free Cheerios and count them out, and then take 3 away from 7 Cheerios, and so they eat 3. How many are left? Well, they are involved. They will get it. So you've involved them with taste, smells, touch. So this tactile learner needs that kind of input. So if he's squirming around, this is the first thing I want you to check. Look for cortical spillage. If there's no cortical spillage, it's probably not going to be bouncing around quite so much. Here's the other thing we talked about last week with neonatal reflexes, which is something we've been talking about with some of your kids. And the spinal gallant and the micturition reflex. When a baby's born, you rub your finger down one side of the spine, they curl towards that side. You run your finger down the other side of the spine, curves towards that side. You run it down both sides at the same time, and they pee. So if you've got a 10-year-old child who's all the time, little Janie is going like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So she sits in the chair, leans back, bang. She has engaged that micturition reflex, and her bladder says, we gotta go. You just rang my bell, we gotta go. So she gets in trouble. Janie, you just went to the bathroom. You don't have to go to the bathroom. Trust me. Leans back in the chair. Oh no, I've got to go to the bathroom. So that student can be a problem in the classroom especially. But they get in trouble, and then it's a negative environment. And then they don't want to learn. They hate school. I don't like my teacher. They're mean to me. My mom's mean to me. She won't let me go potty every time I need to. Well,
we're not stopping this car again.
Yeah, you sit back in that seat. We're not stopping this car.
Yeah.
Whoa! Yeah. So you see the problem here?
No,
And
there's
you
no
see the
problem. Just
solution?
hand him that empty soda cup.
Yeah, there you go.
For boys.
Oh wait, I didn't say that
How
on
did
Facebook
that
Live.
work?
That didn't come out.
How did that work out for you?
Well, it
It didn't go well.
depends on if you're talking about the boys or the girls.
Okay, so if this helps answer your question, yes, if they've got extra energy going through their brain, it's not in the channels. It needs somewhere to go.
Yeah.
Or they will not learn, or they cannot learn, or they're not going to learn. It's going to be disorganized.
Right.
And we need organized input to the brain.
Yeah.
Now let's cover the teachable moment. I love this with our 15-year-old. I'll drag him into it. I just got scowled at. You want to teach what they want to learn. And if they don't want to learn it, you're just being mean to them. So your challenge is to get them to want to learn it. And I've seen kids that perseverate, which is another topic for another time, but they get fixated on trains. Well, why don't you teach them engineering facts about trains? Why don't you teach their math through trains? A train weighs, I don't know how many tons. It's like, I'm just guessing. So you train engineers, you can straighten me out. Say it weighs 80 tons. How much does an elephant weigh? Okay, little Johnny Jump Up, we're going to teach you how to divide by using elephants and trains. Really? We're going to use trains? So you've got to find the teachable moments. You have to find what they're interested in. A 15-year-old right now, he wants to tan hides. And he wants to build things. He wants to be out there on a grinder. You know, he wants to be out there getting himself electrocuted with little projects. And he comes in with pieces whittled off his fingers. And so nobody called CPS. He's fine. But that's how he learns too. So if we want to teach this boy, we need to have him in the environment, surrounded by the environment that he loves and the things he loves to do. So why can't you learn chemistry while you do tanning, hide tanning? We can learn geography when we go to Virginia in a few weeks if we're going. We're trying to get to a tanning school in Virginia. We can learn geography. We might as well visit some sites around there. He's going to learn from this outdoorsman some incredible things. And we stress about what they're teaching. We got to have this level of math at this age and this level of math, and then they get to the 10th grade and say, okay, now we got to do, well, we did that level. Now we still got to do this level. And then they get into college and, okay, now you're back in algebra again. Oh my gosh. Some of it's content. All right, so the school has their cookie cutter system for your child that says, at this age, this grade level, they should be able to do this much math. And if they can't, well, then we need to get them in remedial classes. We need to get them tested, see if they're ADHD, if they're bouncing around the class. They need drugs. They're disrupting the class. When they need fish oil. So, teachable moments, and some of this is content. We have a daughter in college right now, and some of the same stuff that we were teaching, that my wife was teaching her in high school, now she's having to do in college again. It's still content. But if it's big fat negative content, it's a problem. So how to get them to love that math, that's a challenge. I don't know. Some of them I don't know, unless you can engage them where they're at, what they like to do. You know, one daughter loves ASL, American Sign Language. Another kid loves to build things with nuts and bolts and welding and whatever else. And they're all different. So find the high interest and engage them at the high interest. If you don't have their interest, you're going to have difficulty teaching them. And if you have to be mean to them to get their interest, that's a problem. Right? So, and that's a challenge, especially when it's been 4, 5, 6, 8 years of disadvantage of a negative environment. Negative, well, I don't like to read. Well, of course you don't like to read. You're not good at it because you can't see out of your right eye. You're trying to read with your left eye. It's disorganized. And the brain chemicals are already set up saying, whoa, reading, forget that. I don't want to read.
So how do you learn to read out of one eye?
Well, you're supposed to have a dominant eye, and the dominant eye should be, if you're right-handed, should be your right eye. So when you're reading, it goes to the logical hemisphere of your brain. If you're supposed to be right eye dominant, but you're left eye dominant, what you're reading is engaging your emotions.
And how do you know if you're left or right dominant?
You have to see which hand you use, and then Like I like to get a kaleidoscope. I have one in the office, and I hand it to the child at midline. And we did this a few weeks ago, right here.
Yeah.
We passed it around, and everybody put it up to the eye to see which eye they preferred. That's a real easy one with a kid. Just give them a paper towel tube and say, "We're going to play pirate. Oh, was that a squirrel? Look for that squirrel. Ooh, squirrel! I want to see the squirrel." And you see which eye it goes up to, and get them excited. Get this excited, teachable moment here. And if this eye is not dominant, but it should be, this eye is dominant and it shouldn't be, then we're going to have to do some eye patching. Now they do a lot of eye patching for strabismus, where the eyes aren't tracking right and they're trying to strengthen the weak eye. And that's not the problem. The problem is back in neural development. We're going to cover eye development in a few weeks. We're going to go beyond 8 sessions. And we'll actually go through the different steps of eye development, step by step by step, so you can see where you, yourself, your spouse, your child, your neighbor, whatever, where you can see what level they haven't developed at. So it could be the macular vision, the central detail vision. And if central detail vision isn't developed, then the child is looking at you like this. Remember when we did this? You're saying, "Look at me in the eye." And they're going like, "Well, I can't see you in the eyes because I've got 2 holes right in the center of my face here." So when they're looking at you from the peripheral, they see you. Because I can see Jeff really plain out of my peripheral. I can't see his face. So now he's trying to read. And this is the child in the reading environment who gets next to this page like this to read. Have you seen anyone like that? Mm-hmm. They get next to the page. They get this far from the TV to watch the TV. Johnny, sit back. You can't watch the TV sitting that close. Well, he can see the TV sitting that close. Not you. You didn't do that. Mm-hmm. So you make him sit back and he can't see. So now he's looking over here at the window trying to see the TV. So that's what it looks like. So the problem is you need to go back and develop that central detail vision in that dominant eye before they can see, before you can teach them how to read without engaging their emotions, before they, if you're taking the information in the incorrect eye, say you're right-handed, should be right eye dominant. If it's going in the left eye, it goes to the subdominant hemisphere. Now, in order to come back to the logic hemisphere to write about it, or to speak about it, or to read out loud where language is, it crosses the corpus callosum and it gets turned upside down and backwards. And we have a problem. Little Johnny hates to read. Snowball Pete, he hates to read. He's not successful at it, and he's always getting corrected, and it's not even his interest level. He doesn't want to read about that. He wants to read about the sportsman, the outdoor. That's talking about my 15-year-old. You want to engage him in reading? Give him an adventure book. Give him a tool catalog. Give him, something that he's interested in. He'll read it. So, I don't know if that answered your question. Maybe we go way past that.
Well, we've taken enough rabbit trails. We're a long ways from where we started.
Remember your question, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't know what the question was. But I got some great notes here.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's not texting his wife. He's actually making notes.
Yeah. I'm not checking the basketball scores really.
No. All right. Here's another key for your environment: is always do reward after work. Reward after work. So don't do reward in the middle of work. Say, "Okay, Parker, when you get done with that, now you." Yeah, he's like, "Oh, what did I do?" When you get through with your studies, then you can go walking to the park. You can go down to the dock. We got a fishing dock a mile away. And he loves to go there and throw his line over. And he loves to go over there and throw rocks at the seagulls that are attacking the pigeons and whatever. He loves that, but he can't do that till homeschool's done, till he gets excited about getting it done. reward after. So if it's going to be a reward, it has to be something they want. Or it has to be, if it's
It
punishment,
works for adults too.
for adults too, yes. And I'm not talking chocolate cake here, okay?
You're not allowed to.
I'm not allowing chocolate cake to be a reward. It can be,
That you said we need lots of thick, buttery frosting, so we're helping the fats.
yes, fatty, yes. So it's got to be organic, gluten-free,
Grass-fed.
grass-fed milk, yes.
Grass-fed
let's
frosting.
Be logical about it.
Free-range frosting.
Free-range frosting.
Yes, that's
Which brings us to, that actually brings us to another point. So just go ahead and establish reward after work. But in schools, the kids and the teachers, I've taught a lot of continuing education unit with teachers. And I say, what time do the kids crash out? 10 o'clock. And what do? We got to give them a snack. So what do they feed them? Sugar, gluten. They feed them junk. Okay, so here's the problem with the learning environment. And this happens. Mommy thinks she's doing the right thing. Make them drink milk with their McDonald's on the way to school. That kid, or the standby cereal. Feed them with cereal. You just gotta keep them alive enough to get them to school, and then let the school handle them. And then 10 o'clock, 10:30, and so what do they give them? Some wheat crackers. Some schools will actually give them fruit.
I read a report this week that there was more Roundup in the
More Roundup, the chemical Roundup. Yep, showing up everywhere.
breakfast cereals.
Oh, and the breakfast cereals, yeah. So we're poisoning the kid on top of poisoning them. We poison them with bad food and poison. Did I use the word poison enough? You get the point? So if you want a positive teaching environment, you need a kid that had a healthy diet, a kid that's not starving to death. So get them a healthy snack, get them healthy food. And then you have to know what your kid, some of these kids, their blood sugar's gone. I was trying to test a kid at Notre Dame one time. And mom said, this kid just goes episodal berserk. That's what your biggest problem. So I'm doing a neurological evaluation on this kid. And the kid gets mad and mean and angry. He flips the table over. He runs out. They have to chase him down. He's running through the streets. They bring him back, and I said, okay, let me check his blood sugar. I poked his finger. He had about 30. He was about a 30. We have a nurse in the crowd here who's going like, 30? That's barely alive. They find you passed out on the street. What do they give you? They give you sugar just in case your blood sugar's 30 or below. And at least if your blood sugar was 840 and you passed out, a little more sugar is not going to kill you at this point. But if you're 30 and dropping, that was this kid. And she couldn't get this kid taught because he would go episode. So you've got to feed this kid something a little. He's going to need a lot of snacks all the way through. And it was like a revelation to her. She thought she had a behavioral problem, which she did. But they had a negative environment because this child needed more food, a little different food, and more of it spread out to keep his blood sugar level. And actually, he needed other things to help his body learn to regulate. So, but who knew? So the behavior problems, the negative environment, what's causing it? Do they need fish oil because they're bouncing? Do they need a healthy snack because they've cratered and they need some gluten-free crackers and some cheese? Gluten-free crackers. I'm not against gluten much.
Only when you eat it, right?
Everybody here who's liver than live has heard that from me before. Well, so let's go into the classroom. Let's say we've got a classroom. I've alluded to this a few sessions ago. And little Johnny Jump Up, what does he do? You're trying to teach math, and what does he do?
Jump up.
He jumps up. Little Johnny Jump Up, I told you not to jump up. Now all of a sudden he's called out. The other classmates going, ooh, the Johnny, trouble. You jump up one more time, Johnny, you're going to the office. Little Johnny sits back down, his little spinal gland, oh, here he goes again. Or he can't help himself. The brain is a whirl of cortical spillage. And little Johnny jumps up again, up to the office with you. Doggone it. And drop by and see the nurse on the way. See if she can help you get on some Ritalin. You get this kid drugged up so we can teach class because little Johnny jumps up. So that's a problem. It may be little Johnny jump up, just his brain's disorganized and it's getting more disorganized by the second. Bam, he jumps up because his brain is just out on overload. Well, a good way to organize that brain is marching. I know we've talked with a couple of you guys about marching your children, which is a challenge when the children don't want to march. So that's a whole other challenge. So again, work first, reward later. So you find what they want or don't want, and you work within those parameters. That's with an ADHD parent who has an ADHD child, and what his child is now 13, and this was in Phoenix last week. He's probably watching Facebook Live, so I won't mention any names. And the kid wants a cell phone. If you want this kid's attention, say, okay, if you don't do this, give me the cell phone. We'll take the cell phone away. Yep, you're going to lose it for 2 hours. After you're going to argue about it, 3 hours. Oh, now it's 4 hours. That kid, that's what he wanted. That's his reward, too, to get his cell phone back.
My daughter has a system where her kids have to earn points.
Earn points, yep, point system.
And then when they get so many points, they're allowed to spend it on something media or whatever.
Right, so the point economy. They used to do the silver stars, gold stars, green stars, on the little chart, especially in grade school. And if you wanted to be the student to get all the slots filled up, and it's gold stars, and that was usually little Janie. She was always the best, and she earned those stars. That was her reward. Some kids don't care about those stars. They really don't. They want to eat it. They want to taste it to see what the back of that thing tastes like. Oh, that was you, huh? Well, so little Johnny jumps up because his brain's disorganized. He's gone on overload. So rather than make it a negative environment, say, okay, class, everybody get up. Let's march. March in place, everybody. You too, Johnny, come on, march. Make it fun. See how far you can swing those arms. Everybody gets organized. Okay, sit back down. You probably got another 10 minutes before Johnny jumps up again. Maybe. Mm-hmm. But you didn't keep the negative environment. You organized everybody, helped burn up a little of that energy. And I teach the school teachers, when their kids are out on the playground playing, they're over here in the invention hemisphere. They're flying the interstellar aircraft, and they're on that, they don't allow some of this equipment on the playgrounds anymore, but they're on with that merry-go-round, and they're going to the moon, and little Mormon Mary and Janie are over here playing dolls, and they're inventing things. They're Snowball Pete, he's out here playing what you can't play anymore, cowboys and Indians or whatever, or soldiers, and making the play guns, and gnawing his gun, his piece of bread in the shape of a gun, and getting in trouble nowadays. Mm-hmm. It's a different world. But they're out there. They're in their subdominant hemispheres. They're emotion playing, role playing. They're little actors. They're having fun, burning energy. And the teacher blows the whistle or the bell rings. And they rush into the classroom and sit down, and they're ready to learn, right?
No. Can you teach yourself to have photogenic?
What's that?
Can you teach yourself to have photogenic memory?
Okay, well, we need to cover photogenic memory another time. we're talking about the positive environment. We'll get back to that. Yes, and
Well,
you
you
can.
talked about the sub layer that you said that was
Subdominant,
on. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we can come back to that another time. So learning avenues and how to accelerate learning, that would be one, but it can be inefficient. So they rush back into the classroom, sit down and say, okay, we're going to do math. And the whole class goes, oh, because they were in their happy place. They were out there on the playground. They were out doing something different. Now you're going to be negative and make them do that. So I tell the teachers, so if they're in the subdominant hemisphere, one of the best ways to put them in the dominant hemisphere is to march. Line them up on the playground. Okay, Snowball Pete, you're at the head of the line today. Okay, everybody march to the classroom. They march down the hall. They march all the way around the class. They march to their place and they sit down. They're organized. Their brains are organized. They'll be in their logical hemisphere. You start to teach them math, they get it. You know, little Johnny Jump Up, he has a problem with math. You give him 10 problems, he's got 2 of them right. Or did he get 8 of them wrong? Which is it? He got 2 of them right. Johnny, you're kidding us. Oh my gosh, look at you. Look, everybody, Johnny got that one right. He got number 4 right. Johnny got that right. And it's exciting. And Johnny now I can do those. I'm good at those. You know, and you build on that, and the classroom is a whole lot more peaceful until little Johnny jumps up again, right? So then everybody march in place. So you can be in control, but while getting there, and this one young lady here has a challenge because her kids don't want to march. They don't want to march. They don't want to crawl. They don't want to army crawl. You know, this is important stuff for development. If you're army crawling, you can actually help develop that spinal gland. That neonatal reflex that every time they sit back, like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. So army crawl is good for that. There's the exercises we covered in our neonatal reflex last week that you can do to get past that. We should be doing this in the classroom. They should be out there in PE. They should be army crawling under the trampoline. And the teacher, the gym teacher, the coach should be watching to make sure that this arm comes up, you know, the knee comes towards the elbow. This one goes straight, and the head turns, and then they go the opposite, and the head turns. And if they can't, their brain will be disorganized and have trouble reading, quite frankly. Most of my people, the kids with trouble reading, can't army crawl. They do what I called last week, I called it the wounded soldier. Where they've been shot in the spine, everything's crippled except that one arm, and they're dragging themselves across the field. Where they should be able to get that pattern going. One institute I worked with, they would have that child crawl, army crawl, minimum of half mile, some of them, every day, because it organizes the brain. Right, so you develop that spinal gland. They don't have to go pee every 5 minutes. Little Johnny Jump Up's not jumping up so much. Or they're ADHD, we keep them drugged. They're late in high school, they get in trouble. The judge says, well, son, I can send you to jail or you can join the army. I'll take the army. You know, get through basic, do it. Well, they come back from basic and everybody goes, wow, Johnny, jump up. Look at you, young man. He's tall, he's proud, he's logical, he's smart, he's sharp. Everybody goes, whoa, this is so good for you. Well, he was army crawling. He was doing jumping jacks, and not just 50 at a time. Depending on when he jumps up at the wrong time, he's going to do push-ups and jumping jacks. And this organizes his brain. This develops his body. This puts his neonatal reflexes where they should be. It integrates them. And then he comes back from the army and go like, Army does it every time. Boy, ain't that great? Well, Army's great, I guess, except for all the vaccinations that they poison you with. That I've got a problem with, but my wife's going like, oh, you had to go there. So stay focused on the notes, yes. So the Army works to organize them, and the coach should be working with them. The teacher should know this. And if you want to know how your child is developmentally, you need to put them through these paces and have them Army crawl. Have them skip. See if they can skip. Can they skip? Can they march? Can they slap this knee, this knee, this knee, this knee? Can they go back and forth? Can they bounce a ball this hand between their feet and catch it with this hand, bounce it back? That's crossing the midline of the brain. That's intense. And there's a certain point where they should be able to do that. If they can't, if they're 12 years old and they can't cross that midline, then we need to work on that. And sometimes it's just the opportunity to develop they have not gotten. Sometimes this macular vision has not developed because they haven't had the opportunity. And we do a little therapy, 2 or 3 months of therapy. Bam, this eye can see, they can read, goes to the logical hemisphere, it's a success. And the whole environment gets nice and quiet and calm and teachable. So it's a tapestry we're talking here. You pull on one thread, you get the whole tapestry. So we need to see which threads are out of sync. And we can find it. And we'll take you there. All right, so
now if you follow that thought, our athletes who are constantly bouncing balls and going back and forth should be our most organized thinkers.
that does organize the brain. So.
But it's interesting, I was just thinking that actually oftentimes it seems like the geniuses of our culture tend to be less athletic because they're more focused on learning, and the athletic people don't. But really, there should be an interconnection there in many ways.
Well, some of that's adaptive function. If you're successful, kids who can run fast, what do they like to do?
Run fast.
They like to run fast. You know, kids who are math whizzes, what do they like to do? They'll impress you with their math. Me, I had polio when I was little, so I focused, not so much, well, it's kind of misfocused because I would be so bored in class. I would have everything I already learned. It's like, teach me something I don't know. And then I wasn't paying attention. And then I wouldn't do the homework because I'm like, I can do this thinking homework. I don't want to do it because I can already do it. And they weren't reaching me. And I was actually held back because I was held back. Well, I wasn't held back, but I mean, if they had gotten to me, teachable me, but being the crippled kid, you know, not very athletic, last man on the tennis team, that was it. You know, they put up with me, and they had to let me play at the tournaments, but I couldn't play tennis. So I developed it in the academic. My adaptive function is, if I'm going to succeed in life, I can't do it with a tennis racket. I'm not going to be able to do it as a mechanic because my fingers don't work very well. So I've got to do it some other way. And we tend to find our groove that way too. But your athletic kid, generally that's what they want to do. Because they are athletic. That's their success. They love to be successful. Kids love success. So if you're teaching them math and they're being successful, they're going to love it. If you're teaching them math and it's negative and it's bad and it's mean and it's nasty and it's if you don't get this in 20 minutes, now we're going to spend 2 hours on it. Well, you just wasted another 2 hours of your life because you're not reaching them. Okay, back to the organized classroom. We kind of covered this. If you're a school teacher, though, you want your left-handers sitting, how many are 15%? So if you got a class of 28 kids, the left-handers. Class of 28, you should be sitting on this side of me. Right, and all your right-handers should be sitting over here, so you're getting it in your right ear. People on Facebook Live put one earphone in one ear if you're right-handed, or take your headphones and just put one ear on, or skew the balance so it's one ear. If you're trying to teach your kid something, if you're letting him listen to lessons, make sure it's going in the right ear if you're right-handed. So if you're going to structure your classroom, put the right-handed kids to your right so they get you in their right eye, their right ear. Put your left-handed kids so the teacher's desk is naturally, in a big classroom, going to be weighted way over to the left. And if you really know neurological development, you know your kids, you're going to know the ones who are the extreme, need it through the right eye, need to go extreme to the right. You need to shut out that left as much as you can. The ones who are well organized, doing good, they can be kind of in the middle. When you're teaching your kid at home, make sure you're speaking in their right ear. Right? You're getting the left ear here, so don't get emotional on me. Give the reading to them in their right eye. If they're trying to read with their left eye, they should be right-eyed. You get them, if they have glasses, or you get them fashion glasses, and put soap on their lens. Just soap. And it'll skew it enough where they have to use that right eye. And they should be bringing the stuff to their right eye. They should be reading through the right eye. Dyslexia is a brain disorganization problem. And I wrote an article called Solutions for Dyslexia. I didn't invent the solutions. All I did is report it. And that's been one of my most popular articles. Solutions for Dyslexia. It's about brain organization. So if you take it in the left eye, you're supposed to be right-handed. It's supposed to be right-eyed. It goes to the wrong hemisphere of the brain. It gets flipped over and backwards. Now the child's dyslexic. They keep adding words. They're skipping lines. If you have a lot of problems skipping lines when you're reading, it could be that you're mixed dominant and you're reading with the incorrect eye. Sorry, for those people on live, we got kids playing upstairs and we're hearing the jungle gym noises. So if you hear it, that's okay. It's just life. All right. What else we got? So developmental issues can cause aberrant behaviors. Right? If the right eye has a problem with the macular vision, they need to do pleoptics. That's the therapy. It's on my website, realhealthtalk.com. All one word, realhealthtalk.com. Go under articles, look under the letter P for pleoptics. Really simple. And I didn't invent pleoptics. It's not mine. It was invented in World War II for flash blind soldiers. Flash blind. So when the flash goes off on the camera, you see the blue dot, right? Anybody seen that? And you're trying to chase that blue dot. That's because your macula was overstimulated. That's that center. And pleoptics will help develop that. And one of the good tests for it is little Johnny Jump Up will look at you in the face when you're talking to him. He's probably seeing you here. If Johnny Jump Up is trying to read off to one side with his paper, if little Janie's this close to the TV, there could be a problem. And that's an easy fix. Cheap and easy fix. You just have to be consistent with it. Do it several times a day. Real short periods. You don't want to beat the kid up. We're going to do this for 20 minutes. Now, 2 minutes max. That's pretty much, depending on the age of the kid. If you got a 2-year-old, you're probably going to want to do 30 seconds. And you just might have to do a few more of them. Okay, you can have your banana chips as soon as we do it. Come on, pleoptic time. Okay, you can have 4 banana chips. You can have 2 of those gluten-free M&Ms that are made with good food colors down at Whole Foods or whatever. And they get the reward after the work. And then they get excited for it. So developmental problems cause classroom problems. They cause learning problems, difficulties. They can't hear clean out of both ears. There's a problem. If this ear is more plugged up than this ear, they're going to listen with this ear. Right? We talked about that a few weeks ago, about the caltrails in the brain. Yep. If the eyes don't work right, the input is distorted. The material becomes difficult, and it becomes negative. Okay. The purpose of education, I'm going to read this one, is to provide organized input to the brain, to produce organized output. If the brain is disorganized, it's impossible to put organized material into it and have organized material come out because it becomes disorganized. You're sending a tornado through a wrecking yard and saying, okay, assemble a school bus for me, and I want it to run. So, marching, crawling, skipping. If they can't catch a ball, if you throw a ball and it hits them in the forehead, maybe they can't track with their eyes. That's part of child development. We'll cover that. We will do one on eye development specifically. There are no children that fail. Get that, people? No child fails. We fail the child when we don't see these things, when we don't know these things. And if you want to know them, you're going to find them because you're going to look. That's why some of you are here tonight in this room, here on Facebook Live. All right? Well, next week, we're going to up this game one more. We're going to talk about generating a positive environment, not just a teaching environment, a positive home environment, a positive environment in general. And we're going to talk about the intensity cup. So that's your teaser. And we're going to talk about how to handle bad behaviors. So that's your teaser for next week. Got anything? Is this clear as mud?
Clear as mud. No, sounds good. Thank you, Craig.
All right. Well, we're about ready to hang this up. So God bless you guys. And we'll be here next week, same time, 7 o'clock Western time. All right. Good night.